Welcome, Vincent.
Thank you, Chris.
How's it going?
I'm all right. How's everything over there?
Fine, very fine. Excited to meet you again.
Oh, yes. Wonderful to be with you guys. I can see the trademark roof of Hoderi.
Yeah. So welcome. So the plan, if you don't mind, Dr. Vincent, is I do a small introduction, and then after that you do your presentation, and then after people normally write to me questions, and then I read them to you, and that helps us save a bit of time. Unless you have a better idea, probably can stick to that.
Yeah, I mean, I can do it interactive all the way.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
that would be interesting.
It's an hour or how long?
Yeah, 60 minutes, an hour. So
yeah,
let me do a small introduction.
We get together, right? I mean,
yes. Many more questions. Many questions will be coming. So.
Oh yeah, sure.
So anyway, we are going to start. We try to start always on time. So anyway, this is called a 60-minute series. We've had like 10 sessions so far. So very good, really. People are getting excited. Lots of things have come up from it. So it's something we are excited about. And this time round, we have Dr. Vincent Ogutu. As you well know, guys, Dr. Vincent is a Vice Chancellor Designate of Strathmore University. And previously was a Deputy Vice Chancellor, Planning and Development, Strathmore University. Before that, Dr. Vincent worked in Strathmore Business School as the Vice Dean and also as the Director of its regional academies in Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda. And he was the founding director of the MBA program. He has a doctorate in organizational behavior, organizational management, from Rutgers Business School, with his research being on psychology of meaningful work. It's also worth noting that Dr. Vincent pursued his doctorate on Fulbright scholarship. He also has a Master of Science in Financial Economics from the University of London and a BA of Economics from the University of Nairobi. And then, and I'm sure I'll not be forgiven if I'll not mention that Dr. Vincent started his teaching career in Strathmore School. We ended up being the deputy principal, and he's passionate about teaching. In fact, he says that he identifies as a teacher, which describes as searching for powerful insights that could radically transform people's lives, and then sharing those insights with his audiences in class, on television, and nowadays on social media. Dr. Vincent has given a TEDx in Barcelona and a Soul for X talk at Google in New York. So Dr. Vincent is going to talk to us about how to discover and make the best of our talents. An interesting topic. So welcome, Dr. Vincent.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for that wonderful introduction.
Yes, please.
And this is a topic I'm very excited about. But before I begin, I just want to ask you guys, who do you think is the greatest footballer of all time? Let's hear it, guys. You can either say it, you can type it in the chat. So Jerry says Messi. Okay, let's hear. I knew somebody would say Messi. Let's hear some more. Someone says definitely Messi. Ha, that's Daniel. Aha. And I'm saying of all time, okay? So Violet says Ronaldinho. Nice. Wow. I actually like Ronaldinho's side steps and all the wizardry he does. Pretty cool. Aha. What about the rest of you guys? You're all quiet, man. I mean, someone says Pelé. Michael, very nice. When I was growing up, we always said Pelé was the greatest footballer of all time.
Yeah.
Who else? Messi. Wow, Messi's getting a lot of votes.
He's winning.
Yeah, man. I mean, who else is in this room? Come on, guys, send your votes. Type in, say something. Pogba. Now, seriously, I mean, Violet, the greatest of all time. You can only have one. So it's either Ronaldinho or Pogba. And I think the answer will be obvious. What else are guys saying?
They're thinking. They seem to be thinking a lot.
They're thinking. Okay.
Let's see.
Let me see. Let me also vote.
Yeah.
Let me also put a few guys here. I can almost hear guys saying, "Oh no, like no." I mean, how could you choose him? Like, what is wrong with you?
Wow.
If you disagree, just put it in the chat. Say I disagree. And tell me who's better. So I'm gonna tell you why I think he's one of the greatest. I mean, okay, fine. It could be a toss-up between him and Messi. By the way, I'm surprised nobody has mentioned Maradona.
Oh boy,
Like,
yeah.
I'm honestly surprised. Maybe I'll copy Violet and and type two names as well.
Ronaldo is gaining.
Oh, Ronaldo is
Benobe.
getting popularity.
Yeah, yeah.
Whoa, hey Ben, man, you've got good taste, man. You are such a wise guy. So I'm going to tell you guys why I think Ronaldo could be like is one of the best players out there. So there was a documentary that was made by some scientists in England. So they basically studied Ronaldo. They wanted to know what made him superior to other players. And one of the things they found, someone saying is the most hardworking. Well, yes, he works hard, and his hard work,
Yeah.
changes his natural talent into skill. If he didn't work hard, he would not be that skillful. I know I grew up with some guys who were very, very talented, but then and I was sure they were going to make it to the national team, but they never did because they stopped practicing. Now, if you don't practice, however good you are beating the guys you live with in your estate, you're never going to become a national player. You simply have to practice, practice, practice. So you're right. The fact that Ronaldo has worked so hard has helped him to translate his talent into mad skills, as I call them. So this English scientist decides to find out what makes Ronaldo superior to other players. Is it his speed? Is it his agility and ability to move very quickly from one side to the other? Is it his anticipation? Is it his triangulation? You can tell where the ball is going to be before it gets there and you go there. Is it his ability to make a pass? Is it his ability to curve a ball? Is it the hardness with which he hits the ball, the power? I mean, is it his knowledge of the field and who's where and where the opportunities are? You know, what is it? You know, what makes him superior? And when I watched some of the clips that he made, they were incredible. So I don't know if I can share the screen at all over here. If
Yeah.
you
Let
know,
me
make
allow
me
you.
something, or you allow me to share the screen.
Yeah, let me just allow you in a sec.
Sure. Meantime, I'll get that video ready.
Yes, you can share now, Dr. Vincent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So let's try and check this out. So I'm going to share. It'll stop you from sharing, which is fine.
Yeah.
And then I'll get you here.
Okay.
So several experiments were done. One of the experiments was to make Ronaldo race against one of Spain's sprinters. So let's watch a bit of this. So let's see who wins. You can already take your bets. We'll skip the
advert.
okay, skip the ad.
Real Madrid would still love to be able to count on Cristiano Ronaldo. Because yes, his top speed is sheer madness. In 2019, he was the fastest striker in Serie A. And he's 35 years old, guys. 35 years old.
The age is not important. I feel good. I feel motivated, exciting.
But what time did CR7 clock the day he took on a sprint champion? Cristiano Ronaldo has always been obsessed by the idea of improving his speed. Side note, when he was younger, he raced against cars to improve his speed. It must have been different for other players. Isn't that right, the Free Brothers? When Zlatan was a child, cars chased him to improve their speed. Today, Cristiano Ronaldo is keen to train with professional sprinters, like 100-meter champion Francis Ogutu. But in 2016, while he was in his prime, Cristiano Ronaldo went one step further. For Sky Sports, he literally raced against an elite sprinter, the former Spanish 100-meter record holder, Ángel David Rodriguez. A guy who competed in the Olympic Games and World Championships for Spain. So, we want to know, did CR7 beat him?
And I'm really excited, to be honest. And,
Us too, Cristiano, us too! The first trial was a 25-meter race in a straight line. Ángel David Rodriguez scored a time of 3.31 seconds. Cristiano Ronaldo was the next to take on the 25-meter. He finished at a time of 3.61 seconds. The footballer was just a bit short, 0.3 seconds to be precise. He's not an actual sprinter, so it's logical that he lost. But then, Ángel David Rodriguez took on CR7 in a 25-meter zigzag race with rapid changes of direction. CR7 was pretty calm before the race. That's my style. It's exactly what I do on the pitch. Rodriguez achieved a time of 6.86 seconds. But then, Cristiano Ronaldo ran a stunning race. He dominated Rodriguez with a time of 6.35 seconds. 0.5 seconds difference. What the fuck? Scientists who were there to analyze Ronaldo's race in detail got to analyze all his strengths. CR7's biggest strength isn't his speed running in a straight line. Instead, he has a very low center of gravity. He's very comfortable when he has to take very short steps because of his incredible explosiveness. He strings together little bursts, which give him huge dynamism to change direction very quickly. Cristiano Ronaldo is no longer the fastest player in the world. Maybe this madman Haaland, who ran 60 meters in 6.64 seconds against PSG, is now faster than him at running in a straight line. And what to say about Adama Traore and Kylian Mbappe? But CR7 has still got incredible explosiveness. It's allowed him to outclass an elite athlete, even if Rodriguez dominated in a straight line. It's this explosiveness he uses to move into space in 2 steps and send defenders for a hot dog.
Wow.
Okay, so that's just one of the skills. So what do you think about that? Like, how the heck did he become that fast? I mean, why did he beat the Spanish sprinter? What gave him the edge to beat an Olympic, athlete?
Yeah.
What do you think gave him the edge?
Maybe Michael Allo can tell us.
Yeah,
Mike.
tell us, man. Mike.
Hello?
Practice. If I practice against those guys, I mean, I wouldn't even if I practiced a lot, Jerry, there's no way I'll catch up with those guys because I don't have the talent. Even if I practice hard, I can't catch up with them. Now, Cristiano and Rodriguez both had talent, but they practiced in different ways. And so one of them is faster when you go on a straight line, and the other is faster when you go zigzag. So it's really the kind of practice that they did, but they're both extremely talented. So Cristiano could have chosen to become a sprinter as a career, but instead, and in my case, I can't choose to be a sprinter. Like, however hard I try, I just don't have the talent. So there's no need for me to even practice. So that's kind of what happened. And I'm gonna show you another video. and this is the last one I'll show you. This is a short one. So I'll just try and maximize it. I'll actually, just a second, let me.
No astronaut.
Okay, fine. This time I'll maximize it so that you can see it on the big screen. And you are not gonna believe this when I show it to you. So here it comes. First of all, let the title sink in. So you're probably thinking this is madness, this is voodoo. I mean, what the heck is this about? Okay, you're about to find out. Here we go. So the first time you saw the darkness, second time you're seeing it with infrared. And you see what he did in the dark. Second goal in the darkness. You turn on the lights, he scored, you're wondering how the heck did he do it? You watch it in infrared and you see what he does in the dark. So this time they turn off the stadium lights before the guy kicks the ball, meaning his foot is about to connect with the ball. And that's when they turn off the lights. Watch. They turn off the lights just before he hit the ball. Then they turn on the lights and the ball is in the goal. And there was a goalie there. So how the heck did he put it in? So they're congratulating him, ask him, how did you do it? Now you watch it with infrared. Lights go off, infrared comes on. You see him going into position. He knows exactly where to go and he scores with his shoulder. So he predicted it purely from the movement of the player. So just from the foot movement, when the guy is about to connect with the ball, he knew exactly where it was going to go in the air, what force the guy had kicked it with, where it was going to go, where he needed to be, which part of his body he would connect with, and which direction he would make it take the ball in order to enter that goal. I mean, that's madness. That's just insane. That is just insane. And he's doing this in the darkness. So we're not making this up, guys. I mean, these are the kind of skills that Cristiano Ronaldo really has. And it took a lot of practice to get there. So I'm gonna ask you guys, like, what are some of the best examples of talent that you know? Like some guys you've watched doing something and you're like, oh my gosh, like, how can anyone be that good? You know, it just left your jaws falling, like, what is that? So just give us an example of one of the things you've just marveled at and said, this is amazing. I can't understand how anyone can be that good at anything. So give me one or two examples, guys. Of crazy talent. So Jerry, teaching. So what do you mean by teaching is a crazy talent? Or is it that you know a teacher that you admire, that you're like, how can this teacher be that good? So tell us more, Jerry. Okay, so teaching is a talent and I'm a teacher. I'll definitely give you that. And by the way, I was not always good at it.
Can I talk on the mic?
Yeah, sure. Let's hear you.
Okay, so teaching is a talent because not everyone can explain things properly, and you have to tend to organize people, and some of them are very disorganized.
So true, so very true. It's hard to, first of all, even just get them to be organized enough to listen to you. That's already like a skill. And then after that, you need to hold their attention. And then if they don't understand, you've got to explain it to them. And if it's a class of 40, there could be 40 different ways of explaining it, because one way isn't working with one guy. You've got to explain the same thing in a different way that some other guy is gonna be able to understand. And so you have to be very versatile as a teacher. So it's definitely not an easy profession. So Chris, you're saying that Djokovic, his backhand is out of this world. Yeah, I agree. I think Djokovic is probably one of the most athletic tennis players that I know.
Yeah.
Just his athleticism, you know, how fast he can move.
Yeah.
I've seen him do some incredible dives.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the dive, he throws the racket hits the ball, and it's a score. Insane.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One more example, guys, of just insane talent. You look at it and you say, how is that possible? How does he or she do it? Like, how? What amazes you guys? It doesn't even have to be sports, by the way, just like you gave the example of teaching. What are some things you look at and you say, wow, that is talent? By the way, I'm a teacher, so you know, you can hide, but you know, you can run, but you can't hide. So I'm picking on you, Daniel. So Daniel, give us an example of something that has impressed you recently. You looked at it and you just said, you know, hats off to those guys.
Yeah.
So Daniel, you go. You can either type on the chat or, oh, comedy, Eric, oh my gosh, Eric. I mean, by the way, you know, I think you're taking my definition of insane a bit too far, because in Eric's case, he's not just insanely talented, he's actually insane. I mean, how does he think of those funny things to act? And then how does he even act them? And then all the different accents that he puts on. Yeah. And even just getting the idea, like there was one I saw of his with Raila the other day. He's saying, why is Raila so successful? And then if you want to be as successful as Raila, you need, I don't know, 5 guys you can count on all the time. Then he gives you the 5 guys, then you just laugh. Then he tells you, you need, I don't know, he gives you all sorts of crazy things. And yeah, I agree. Really, really talented guy.
Yeah.
Wow. So I'm going to ask you guys another question. Is there a difference between talent and skill? Are they the same thing? So, Jerry says no. Who thinks they're the same? Anyone? So Jerry says, no. Okay, Mike says you develop skill. By the way, Mike, just tell us more. So if you develop skill, what about talent? Is it something you develop or it's something you're born with?
Yeah,
like
talent you're born with.
You're born with a talent. So could guys give me examples of things you think if you're not born with, there's nothing you can do, like it's over, you know, you just don't have it, so don't even try. So give me examples of talents.
No, not really.
So drawing, someone says drawing, that some guys can draw, some guys can
dancing. They're
so, Coding. Okay, so dancing. I mean, have you heard about left feet, 2 left feet? So they say that if you can't tell the difference between your left foot and your right foot, then you can't dance. Because if you're told 2 to the left, 1 to the right, 2 to the left, 1 to the right, you're like, 2 to the left, then you going left, you keep going left, and you're out of the screen. I mean, so if you have two left feet instead of a left foot and a right foot, sorry, you can't dance. And some guys are like that. You tell them, okay, lift your left hand. Now you're right. Now you're left. Now you're right. They can't do that. Or you tell them, do this. Like they can't. And that's just what a normal guy does. Obviously, if you can do this, now I know you're talented. I don't know if you guys can do what I'm doing.
How
So
is
I'm not moving both hands in the same direction.
Yeah.
Okay, because when you do this, they're actually going in the same direction. One is going where the other left. So you can see they're going in the same direction. Now I'm doing the opposite. One is going clockwise, the other is going anti-clockwise. Have a go, guys. Let's see. You can either turn on your screen and let us laugh at you, or you can laugh at yourself. Has anyone succeeded? Am I the only talented guy in the room, in the Zoom room? So, who can do it? So watch me, I'm actually going clockwise and anti-clockwise. Michael, you say you can. Prove it. Turn on the screen, show us. Chris is
Michael,
really smart. Michael, prove it, man. Anyone can type, I can, but not everyone can actually do it.
Michael is doing it.
Cool. So cool.
Boy.
Very nice. Okay, so there are some of you who, no matter what you do, you can't do that. You just don't have the motor skills. Maybe you have two left hands, okay? Now, most of you have a left and a right, just like me. And I think with a bit of practice, you can train your brain to send the right instruction to do it. So the first time I was asked to do it, I couldn't. Not because I didn't have the ability, but because I didn't have the skill. I had not trained myself. But once I trained myself, I was able to do it. So there are many things which, if you train yourself, you can do it. And Daniel is saying, I think there's nothing you can't achieve. And that's why he gets motivation from Ronaldo, but loves Messi. Anything is achievable as long as you keep working on it. So not quite anything, but I would say most things, like many things, are achievable if you work on it. But there are some things that you simply can't do because you don't have what it takes, you know. So there are certain heights you can't jump unless you're a certain height or you have certain kinds of muscles. You know, there are just some things you can't do. But yes, I've seen some very short guys dunking in a basketball court. So yes, maybe, you know, with enough determination and practice and training, you could get pretty far. But there are some things that if God didn't give you, then you can't do it. And there's a reason for that. You know, why did God give us different talents? You know, why are we all different? Why didn't he make all of us exactly the same? How come some people are talented in one thing and others are talented in another? What's the purpose of that? Do you think there's any reason behind it? Like a big reason why all of us were born different? So yes, Thuo says so that he can utilize us in different ways. And it's true, because there are so many different things that are supposed to be done. And if all of us wanted to do exactly the same thing, then the world would come to a stop. So let's say all of us wanted to be like Hamilton. We all want to be race drivers, you know, Formula One. Then who's gonna fly the planes if everyone is a driver? Who's gonna cook if nobody's a chef? Who's gonna build those cars if there are no engineers? Who's gonna treat us when we fall sick if there are no doctors? Who's going to help all of those people to grow in their careers if there are no teachers? So there's definitely a need for all of us to be different so that all these different things that are needed can get done. So it's actually a good thing that all of us are different. And Vincent says, yeah, let's celebrate our diversity. And yes, it makes the world more interesting. So I'm just looking at some of the earlier comments, so Jamie was saying that Messi has talent and Ronaldo has skill. I think they both have both. They both have talent, and they've both turned that talent into skill, and not just into skill, but into mad skills. So I always think of their level of skills as mad skills. So it's just different from skills. We can learn to be a good soccer player, a good pianist, a good singer, but for you to get to the world stage, you have to turn it not just into skills, but into mad skills. And I call them mad skills because anyone looking at you doing that stuff will just say that's insane, meaning that's mad. That level of skill is crazy, So hopefully the reason you're here today for this get together is to try and figure out, how do I get to the level of mad skills, the kind of level that Ronaldo and Messi are at, that Djokovic is at, that some of these incredible singers are at, Ed Sheeran, I don't know who you like as a singer, but these people practiced a lot to get to that level. But it all begins somewhere. It all begins by knowing what your talent is. How do you find out if you're good at something? How would you know? Is there like an angel who will fly, reach your room, take out a feather from his back and write on a scroll, hey, you, Mike, you are supposed to be the next Picasso, the next artist. And then you'll know, I knew it. I just knew it. I knew I was born to be an artist. And that's how it's gonna happen. You find out your talent, you enroll into one of the best art schools in the world, and you launch off your career, and we start talking of a Mutemi instead of a Picasso. Like, have you seen the latest Mutemi? This here on the wall is a Mutemi, So something of that category. Now, how would you know your talent? Like, how would you even discover that? How will you know? Will an angel come and tell you? How will you know? In fact, as you're thinking about it, here's a story. You can decide for yourself if it's a true story or not. But basically, it happened in heaven. And there's a guy who had just arrived in heaven. So it was his day one in heaven. And he's walking through heaven together with Saint Peter, who is the one who opened the door for him. He has the keys to heaven. And then Peter says, hey, come, as I'm showing you to your quarters, I'll be pointing out a few interesting things. For instance, that guy over there, and then Peter lowers his voice, that guy is the greatest general of all time, the greatest war general of all time. And this guy, who happens to be an historian, a history professor, he's like, are you kidding me? That guy? What's his name again? And then Peter tells him, it's a guy called Luf Lirpa. And he's like, never heard of him. The greatest? No, it can't be. I mean, you're probably talking about guys like, Alexander the Great. You might be talking about General Patton. You might be talking about, there are all these great generals. I don't believe, who's this Luf Lirpa guy? Like, what the heck? And I'll even type the name just in case you guys figure it out. So, so he tells him, yeah, this guy is the greatest general of all time. And then the historian says it can't be. And then Peter tells him, yes, it is, because this guy was given the talent to be the greatest general of all time. So all those guys you've mentioned, Napoleon, Alexander the Great, King David, Shaka Zulu, you know, all those guys you mentioned, fiddlesticks, nothing compared to this guy. The reason you haven't heard of him is because he never put into practice the talent he was given. He just sat on it, or maybe didn't even discover it. Had he just practiced even just a bit, he would have been the greatest tactician of all time. Like, those guys could not compare to him. So that's what happened. And now feel free to tell me what you think about the name I've put on the chat. Oh, Emmanuel, you got it. You broke it, man. Okay, yes, so it never happened, okay? There's no Luf Lirpa, and this conversation never happened in heaven. But you know, it could have happened. It could actually have happened, in the sense that what I believe is there are many guys in heaven or in hell who are the greatest person in blah that never was, the greatest footballer that never was, the best musician that never became a musician, the best orator that never was, the best doctor that never was, you know, the best sprinter that never was, the best painter that never was. I'm sure they exist. So maybe what we got, what we celebrate, are the second best, the third best, because the guys who could have made it just never made it. And I'm sure you've heard this story before. Where are the richest guys in Nairobi? Where do they live? Where do the richest guys, where will you find the richest guys in Nairobi?
Karen Runda.
So somebody says Runda, someone says Westlands, Kitisuru, Karen, Runda, What about where Chris lives? You guys don't think highly of where he lives?
Ushago.
Ushago, man. Whoa, Kilingani, Dago. So no one thinks Lavington is... Okay, let me type mine.
Boy,
Just think Luf Lirpa. think Luf Lirpa. Luf Lirpa 1, Luf Lirpa 2, Luf Lirpa 3, 4, 5, 600,000.
Kawangware. Could have been in Kawangware.
Of those who are alive, you could be right. You could be right. There could be seriously talented guys in Kawangware who've just not been trained. And if they were trained, they would be awesome. They would be amazing. Because let's look at it this way. Those who live in Westlands, who live in Runda, you know, who live in Karen, what you see is what you get. These guys have been pumped with so much money, so many opportunities. So they're kind of where you expect them to be. And if they're not impressive, then maybe that's the best they can do. But then the guy in Kawangware, nobody's pumped any money into this guy. They've not had the chances you guys have had. They've not gone to the schools you guys have gone to. So imagine if all the money spent on you guys was spent on them, how far would they go? You know, so maybe you're right. Maybe Kawangware is where the talent is just sitting, waiting to be exploited, waiting to be given a chance. But I think it's Langata Cemetery, because you're gonna find guys who lived in Kawangware, who lived in Karen, who lived in Runda, but they died with their talent. And it could be for one of two things. One, they never discovered it, or two, they never practiced. You could say three, maybe they didn't get the opportunity. They discovered it and they wanted to practice, but they didn't find opportunities. But obviously the journey begins with you discovering. How many people here have read Harry Potter? or watch the movie. I'll count the movie as well. So just type in the chat if you've read the book or the movie or both. I just want to get a sense of how many guys. Yep, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I could even ask it the other way around. Is there anyone here who is not familiar with the Harry Potter story? Like
Me.
Harry Potter, who's that?
Me, I've never read any books.
Of Harry Potter. Have
Yeah,
you watched any movies of Harry
no,
Potter?
like just like 1 or 2 seconds.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe Jerry. Okay, so Ben is not familiar. Jerry is not familiar. So for those of you not familiar with Harry Potter, you have this boy who has kind of been adopted. His parents died, so he lives with his cousins, and they don't really like him. They treat him really badly, and he's just living a very horrible life. And then all of a sudden, some letters start arriving, and many letters start arriving. Now, at first, when the letters arrive, that Harry's uncle just destroys them. He never gets to see them. And then there's a time when so many of them arrive that they can't do anything. The whole house is flooded with these letters. And then Harry reads it, and basically it's an invitation for him to join a school he has never heard of. And it's a school that only wizards go to, people with special skills, people with magical skills. And he's being invited to join it. And from what he understands, only wizards can go to such a school. And he's not a wizard. How can he be invited to that school? And then somebody comes and tells him, you are a wizard. Your parents that you never knew because they died when you were a kid, they were wizards. So you have special skills. You have magical skills. And then he suddenly remembers strange things he could do as a kid. And he realizes that was magic. That was magical power. And suddenly a new life begins for him, in which he realizes he's got incredible talent. He just didn't know before. And that's the beginning of a new life. Now, it's not going to happen in such a dramatic way for most of us. It may, I'm not ruling it out. Someday somebody might look at you and tell you, I think you're incredibly talented in blah. And then breaks it down to you and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. And I was in a subway in New York. I used to live in New York. And one of the things that happens in the subway is you enter the train and then you hear on the intercom, you say, doors closing, please, stand clear of the closing doors, doors closing, stand clear of the closing doors. And then you hear dong and the doors close and then the train takes off. So I hear the usual. I've walked in at Penn Station, New York, and I'm hearing, stand clear of the closing doors, doors closing. And then I hear dong, then the train starts moving. Then as the train is moving, I hear dong again. I'm like, oh my gosh, the doors have opened and the train is moving. Then people are gonna die. I turn, I look at the door, it's closed. I'm like, what? Then I hear it again, dong, the same sound it makes when it's closing or opening. Like, what just happened? And then I hear the sound. This time it's coming from my left. I turn around, I look down, and there's a kid who's mimicking the sound of the door. And he's mimicking it so well that I got fooled. I thought it's the actual sound of the doors opening. So I walk up to the kid's parents and I'm like, hey guys, beautiful boy you've got there. Like, how old is he? And then they tell me, oh, he's 1.5 years old. Then I said, did you know he's incredibly musically talented? And they look at me in surprise, like, what? Like, how would you know that? And I said, the way he imitated that sound, I mean, it was pitch perfect. And they're like, oh yeah, he's always imitating sounds. He loves playing games like that. And then I tell them, yeah, but it's not just imitating the way all kids imitate sounds, but your kid imitates it perfectly. I mean, I'm much older than your kid and I love singing, I love music. I can't imitate that sound to a pitch perfect tone. Like, I cannot do it. So not only does your son have good ears, he can hear the sound well, but he has good vocal cords that have reached such a high level of control. He has such good vocal control that he can imitate a sound at pitch perfect tone. Like, incredible. He could be the next Mozart, he could be the next Beethoven, you name it. So I hope you're gonna do something with that talent. And then they said, we sure will, thank you, sir. And then I walked away. And I hope they did. So again, you might not have a Vincent Ogutu walking up to you and telling you, you know you're incredibly talented in something. It might not happen. Here's another example that this happens quite often. So I'm standing next all of us, I think there's gonna be a splash and all of us are gonna be splashed by the contents of that glass. And then some guy just grabs it in midair and puts it on the table and then continues the conversation like nothing happened. And then I turn to the guy, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, good reflexes. And the guy says, thank you. And I'm telling him, no, it's not just good reflexes, incredible reflexes. I mean, are you a lefty or a righty? The guy says, I'm a righty. He says, but you caught that glass in midair with your left and then calmly put it back on the table. That's incredible, incredible skill. Like, that's incredible reflexes and skill. And the guy says, well, I don't know, you know, and he's never thought about it. Then I tell him, so what are you doing with it? And usually they'll go blank. Like, what are you talking about? I'll say, yeah, you've got incredible reflexes. What are you doing with them? And he says, nothing, I've never thought about it. Then what I'm telling the guy is, look, there are careers you can get into if you have incredible reflexes. Can anyone even guess? Just, you know, type it in the chat. Like, careers that assume you have good reflexes. You have to be able to react in a fraction of a second, or else you're no good. Just type in the chat, any careers. Goalies, yes, because that ball is going fast, like 100 miles an hour, like, and you're supposed to respond. You're supposed to guess where the guy is gonna kick it and to jump to that place. Basketball, pitchers, ping pong, it's true. All of that, you need incredible reflexes. My favorite is a fighter pilot, because you're moving at supersonic speed sometimes, and you might even be in formation, and the plane ahead makes a swerve to the left. You have to know exactly what to do not to crash into the next plane. So you have to make decisions in a split second. So seconds, not in 1 second, not in half a second, not in a quarter of a second. They make decisions in 1/10 of a second. And by making decisions and reacting, what I mean is you see what you need to do, you decide you're gonna do it, and you do it, all in 1/10 of a second. That's what good reflexes can get you into. And you could be an elite soldier as well, because your incredible reflexes are what are giving you the edge. You guys have talked a lot about Messi. One of the things people guess is that Messi sees everyone else in slow motion. Why? Because in comparison, his reaction time is so fast that what for you is 2 seconds, for him is like 20 seconds. Like, I have so much time to see what this guy is doing and where he wants to go, and for me to decide what to do, and then for me to do it, that his reflexes are off the charts. And military, yeah, true. So all those are things you can do with good reflexes. So the first tip that I'm giving you guys to discover your talent is there something that people get surprised when they see me do it, but I'm not surprised? Like for me, it's kind of normal. Like, yeah, I do that. Like, it's not even a big deal. I just do it. Is there something people come and tell you, wow, how did you do that? And in your mind, you're like, why are they even surprised? There's not. And they say, yeah, but you just threw 3 balls in the air and caught all of them. And you're like, yeah, it's easy. You just do it. You're told, no, I mean, this is hard to do. And for you, it's like, actually, it's not that hard. And I remember, like, there are guys who at break time in school, you couldn't catch them. Like, let's say the guy snatches your book. Then you're like, hey, you give me back my book. Or he snatches your sweater. Give it back, give it back. You can't catch the guy. And you're trying, and you know, he just easily sprints away and gets away. And they've just got that talent. They've not trained. They're just, it's not like you ever see them on the practice pitch, field, training, sprints, repeats, intervals. No, they're just naturally faster than you, naturally got acceleration. And they're not even surprised that they can do it. They know they can do it, but sometimes they don't even know. But when you ask them how they do it, that's like the first time they're thinking about it. So if you have something like that, where people get surprised when they see you do something, that's a signal to you that you've got talent. And if you practiced it, you would be really, really good. I remember my year when I was a student at Strathmore, the sportsman of the year was a guy called Franklin Mauka. So Frank, Franga, as we used to call him, was much faster than anyone we knew. So by the time we were in Form 2, he could beat the Form 4s, the Form 5s, the Form 6s. He had natural acceleration. And we never saw Franga practicing, ever. In fact, in the finals, because for us, he would just beat us easily. Then he would go to the finals to compete against guys who were 2 or 3 classes ahead of us. And he would win and then get a muscle pull because he hadn't practiced. Now, those of us who knew Frank, when we think about him today, we think, had he been trained, he could have been like Usain Bolt. He was really, really talented, just never practiced. He'll be another Luf Lirpa when we go to heaven. Like you could have beaten Usain Bolt, but you didn't because you didn't practice. So that's one way of finding out. Another way of finding out is asking people, like, what do you think I'm good at? You'll get all sorts of suggestions, people who know you. Just listen to that feedback. You could even take a diagnostic test. And some tests will tell you you're very likely to be skilled in ABCD. And some of those tests are online, so you can look for them. A lot of them you have to pay, but it could be worth it. You could find out that you have talent, you have natural abilities in something. You just need training and practice, and you'll get there. So these are just different ways of knowing. And then once you discover what your talent is, the next thing you have to do is to turn it into skills, into mad skills. And you can only do that by practice. And there are many, many beautiful ways of practicing. How did Yego become the world champion in the javelin? Can anyone tell us?
From YouTube.
YouTube. He just watched YouTube videos and it gave him ideas. So if you want to know if you're good at something, first of all, experiment, try it out. See if you're even just beating the normal guys around who haven't practiced like you. If you're beating them, even with just a bit of practice, chances are you're better. Anything that with a bit of practice you improve on, that's your talent. So, technically, we like to ask you to mute, or the host can mute him. Okay, so anything that you find easy to do, you're probably talented. So experiment, try different things, try singing, try playing a musical instrument, try learning a foreign language, try painting, try sketching, try running, try different things. And that'll give you an idea whether you even have like a shot at doing it. Then read about it, watch videos about it, get some practice videos and start trying and see how far you get. And if you see that you're getting somewhere, then definitely look for a coach. Now there, you might say, but I don't have money, I can't get a coach, a really good coach in that thing. Then maybe just join a group of guys who are interested in that thing. And there are all sorts of groups. I'm particularly interested in running right now. So I'm in 2 running groups and I get tips from them. We give each other tips. So if you get an injury, you ask guys, how do I treat this? Which exercise do I use? A guy shares a video, or how do I push for longer distances? How do I run faster? Beautiful tips, and I'm improving a lot. I'm running really well. I've now done, I think, so for this month, I've already done about 140 kilometers. So my target is 200 kilometers by the end of this month, and 1,000 kilometers by the end of the year, because I started counting from April. So, you know, join a group of guys who like the kind of stuff you're trying to learn, and you learn a lot of tips from them. And here's like one of my favorite ways of becoming good at something, which is you do an internship. You shadow somebody who's good at it. You say, could I just spend a few days with you, just watching you? That's shadowing. But internship is, could I work for you? So you go and work in a company that does the sort of things that you like to do, and ask them to give you an assignment, you do it. And of course, the first time, then they'll give you feedback. You write down the feedback, and then you go and ask the boss, give me another assignment like that. Then you're given another assignment. This time you put into practice all the tips you were given. Then you come back and ask the boss, how did I do? They say, this is really good. Then you ask the boss, could you do it better? They say, well, I've done this for 15 years, so of course I can do it better. So how would you do it better? They say, the boss says, if you really want to know, the only thing I would add is pay attention to this, pay more attention to this, do this like that. And then for you, it opens your eyes. Oh, that's a new level I didn't know existed. This is like level 4. I was at level 3 and struggling. It's just opened my eyes to level 4. Then you go to YouTube. You look for the different levels of skill in blah, whatever it is you're learning. And then you learn even more stuff than your boss gave you. Then you go back to your boss, you say, give me another assignment, just like the other one. Then you're given one. Then this time you knock it out of the ballpark until the boss looks at it and says, this is insane. I mean, and then you ask the boss, could you do that? He says, frankly, I can't. And then you'll say, well, then thank you very much. I'll be leaving at the end of this week. Like, no, we need you. You can't leave. You're like, but you guys are not paying me. I mean, I was doing this as a volunteer. They're like, but we're ready to pay you. And then now it's up to you. If you want to make money, you can work for them because now you have math skills. Or you can decide, I have math skills by Kenyan standards, but I don't have math skills by Africa standards, continent, or world standards. So since these guys can't teach me anymore, let me go and offer my free services to some guys who I can work for online who are in the UK or in the US. And then I take my skills to the next level. So that's my favorite way of doing it. Then my final words are to do with courage. Don't let guys push you down and tell you, you're hopeless. Why are you even trying? There are these negative voices. And unfortunately, when I was in high school, I listened to them. And the way I discovered that I was actually good in football is when I was playing for the staff team at Strathmore, because I was also a teacher at Strathmore. And one day I was a defender and a ball came to me. We were playing against the students and I cleared the ball. And then the goalie, who's a very good soccer player, and he was a sportsman of the year in Strathmore himself, Clifford Oluoch, he tells me, why did you do that? And I'm like, do what? He says, you cleared the ball. And then I said, yeah, because I'm a defender. I was getting the ball out of danger. He's like, there was no need for you to clear the ball. You just had to stop it. There was no one next to you. Then you look for somebody to pass it to. Then you pass it to that guy. But because you cleared the ball, you just gave it back to them. So now we lost the ball. And I was looking at him like, this is funny. This is a funny conversation. Then he says, Vinny, I know you. Off the pitch, when we're not playing a game, you're always doing stunts with the ball. You're doing pepetying, you're keeping the ball up in the air, you're chesting it, using your knees, you're doing back heels. So I know you have ball control. Why you don't use these skills on the pitch, I don't know. All you had to do is control the ball, and I know you can, and pass the ball, and I know you can. And then he made me think, so I started thinking, why am I doing what I'm doing? Then I remembered when I was in high school, people would always tell me, pass the ball to me, pass the ball to me. And then they would take the ball and start dodging everyone and having a good time and chengaing guys. So they had the luxury to chenga guys. I wasn't given the permission to chenga guys because they'll say, you're not like me, you're not as good as I am, so pass the ball to me. I'm the one who does all the dodging and the scoring. Your job is just to pass the ball to me, or to clear the ball out of danger. So I defined myself as a guy who just clears the ball out of danger, who does the most useless job, which is, not as useful as a striker, as a midfielder. So I wrote myself off. But Cliff knew I had talent. I just needed to use it correctly. And so he told me a few basic principles. Control the ball, look up, see what the situation is, move up the field so that we gain ground, draw them to you so that we have a guy who's coming to you, and therefore one of our guys is unmarked, pass to the guy who's unmarked and we'll advance. And I had the skills to do that. I just started doing it, and suddenly I became a really good defender, just because of those few tips. But the main thing that was stopping me previously was the lack of courage. So when people tell you, shut up, don't even try, let me try, you're nothing, don't listen to them. At least try until you've tried so many times that you know you're hopeless. You know you're hopeless, not because they told you, but because you tried. But if you try and you, like I did, then just keep trying and keep rising, and now start looking at tips, watching guys on the internet, seeing how they do it, then trying to practice, and you'll get there. And my final word to you is, once you've become insanely talented, what are you gonna do with that talent? Could somebody just put there, why do you want to become so talented? Like, what's in it for you? Like, why are you interested? Just type reasons why you would want to become one of the best in the world at something. Like, why? What's driving you to want that? Is it just interesting on its own? So sell your talent so you can make a lot of money. That is so true, because guys like Messi, I can't remember how much he's making, but it could be something like 20 million shillings a week. Am I right, anyone? Chris, would you know?
No, I'm not sure, but I'm sure it's a lot of money.
I think it's something like 20 million shillings a week.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's a lot of money. Huh?
Yeah, because it's something like $200,000.
A year.
No, not a year, a week.
A week, boy.
Right. Okay, Ryan is telling us 500,000 euros per week. Okay, so multiply by like 100, 110 or whatever. It's crazy.
Yeah.
He's getting over 50 million shillings a week. So yes, you can make a lot of money by being one of the best in the world at something. Then Mike says self-achievement. You'll feel good. Yeah. Instead of keeping my skills down, I want to see how far I can go. Like, if I took this skill to math skills, how far would I go? So for instance, I discovered at some point that I could learn languages. That on my mother's side of the family, they all know several languages. So I learned French when I was in high school. Then I taught myself Spanish. Then I taught myself Italian, then Latin. And right now I've reached 7 languages. And my goal is to reach 10 languages because I want to be like Professor Sperling, who was the first principal of Strathmore. So he speaks 10 languages. Pope John Paul II also spoke 10 languages. So my goal is to reach 10. Right now I'm learning Kyuk, so that's number 8. And then I had started Chinese and left it, so that's number 9. I've done a bit of Greek and Hebrew, so I'll decide whether to take one of those two, but I'm mostly aiming at Arabic because then I can go anywhere in Africa. So over the next few years, I want to reach 10. So it's a question of just try, experiment. But so how far can I go? So I agree with you, Mike. You might be doing it to just see, okay, how far can I go? And when I was in New York, I met a guy who liked languages like me, and I still believe he's ex-CIA, but he didn't want to tell me. I found a book that he had forgotten on a bench, and it had his phone number and card, but the book was in Italian, and it had a receipt from the New York Public Library of other books he had borrowed, and they were all in different languages. So when I called him, I asked him, do you know several languages? He did, and he knew 34 languages.
Wow.
And he even took me to a restaurant in New York where they meet every Sunday from 4 to 6 o'clock. It's next to Union Square on 14th Street, next to the Barnes and Nobles over there. And it's like the polyglot restaurant. So there's a polyglot hour where guys just come and speak in different languages. So I had a ball, and somebody even came and started talking with me in Swahili. So it might be because you want to see how far you can go. But I think really Maslow is the one who is telling us why God gave you the talent. He didn't give it to you to just be a celebrity, to impress guys. He didn't give it to you to just be the richest guy. He wanted you to play your part on earth. Remember how we started? We said there are so many different things that need to be done, and you need different types of talents to do them. So if all of us are just trying to be rich, who's gonna do all this stuff? Who's gonna help people? Now, if you choose to use your talent to help others, then you're now playing in La Liga or the Premier League. You're not playing in the local high school league. Because in the local high school league, you can reach your self-achievement pretty fast. You can be in Team Kenya and you're easily above everyone else and you feel you've achieved. But if you decide to help other people, then it means you have to be really, really good. And if you want to help 1,000 people, you have to be very good. You want to help 1 million people, you have to be extremely good. You want to help 100 million people, you have to be one of the best in the world. So depending on how many people you want to help, it'll put you in a different league. And in that league, they use higher level skills. So you have to work harder. So I think the best favor you can do yourself is to make up your mind that once I discover what my talent is, I'll ask myself the question, if I was given a chance to become skilled at this talent, who would I help? How would I make the world a better place? And once you picture that, that becomes the incentive. I've got to play in that league. I've got to go to the big leagues. And that means what I'm doing now is nothing. I've got to work harder. I've got to practice harder. I shouldn't just rejoice because I'm better than everyone around me. That's not good enough. I have to be the best in Kenya, the best in Africa, one of the best in the world. Not because of an ego trip or being a celebrity, but because that will enable me to serve the world like never before. So thank you guys, and back to you, Chris.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Vincent. I'm sure guys might have questions or any doubts. Now time is against us.
My friend from Edwin, hi.
Yeah, many familiar faces here.
Oh man.
Yeah. So Vinny, in case of any doubt, I'll always get in touch with you. And I'm sure we'll continue the discussion. Thanks a million.
Okay,
Thanks for taking time to be with us. And
all the best, guys.
Keep up the running.
Oh, thanks. I'm gonna squeeze in some speed work between 6 and 7 today.
Wow. Okay, fine. All the best.
All right, thank you.
Okay.